So I was raised in Bermuda, and I attended the First Baptist Church of Bermuda, and then at 13 moved to Oklahoma City. We went to Kentucky Avenue Baptist Church, and we went every time the doors were open. We went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Tuesday or Friday, we were there. And so into my adult life, I started living not the type of life that I was raised to live. And the foundation that had been instilled in me, started living for myself. And so I got away from church, from fellowship with Christians, and I was out of church for 27 years. 9.5 years ago, I had gotten very sick, and I was admitted to Piedmont Hospital because I had lost like 30 pounds in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. I was so sick. And so when I was admitted into the emergency room by ambulance, my uncle and his wife who lived here, the doctors told him, unbeknownst to me, that I wasn't gonna live through the night. I didn't even know that. All I knew was I was really sick and I couldn't get a handle on why I was so sick. But I was in the hospital 21 days and still never got any better. My sister flew up from Bermuda, and she just shared with me that she thinks the Lord is trying to get your attention. And he has hope for you. And she shared a verse with me in all my years I never heard, which was Jeremiah 29:11, which I hear all the time now. But before I'd never heard it. And so I really clung on to that verse and really started believing, oh, this is why I lived through the night. And this is why I finally got out of the hospital, is because I have hope in the future. And that time I didn't know what that future was. After they figured out what was wrong with me, a rare stomach virus that just some medicine took care of, the airline I worked for wanted me to move to New York. And I thought, well, is this part of my hope in my future? Okay, so I went with it, and I was out of work like 8 months. The day my severance ran out, I got a call from somebody, an agency that I had worked with that only did mission and humanitarian travel around the world. We're breaking off and we're starting a new company called Mission Nation Travel. Would you come be our client relations manager? What? God was right there. Me not knowing what I was going to do. I still wasn't old enough to retire, and that's how the next part of my journey began. As the agency was new, it was my job to go out and create new relationships. So I was like, how can I find out people who are traveling internationally for humanitarian type travel and missions? So I looked online and I found Serve International and met a really nice lady named Kathy, and she started telling me about Pastor Paul and the Atlanta Dream Center. She said, have you ever heard of him with the Atlanta Dream Center Church? And I said, no. She said, well, this guy's connected all over the place. And if you're trying to create new relationships, I bet he can help you. So I walked in, and I didn't know what to expect. And I walked in, and on the left side of the wall, there were two hands that were praying together, and they were diverse. And this feeling came over me. This is where you need to be. You need to start coming to this church. This is part of the plan I have for you, Randy. This was God telling me. And that next Sunday, I walked in and I came to church here, and that was 7 years ago. First of all, I was raised in a Baptist church where we had hymnals. There wasn't any words on the screen. I did not know any of the songs, and I can read music, and so there was no notes up there for me to able to read music. So anyway, I really loved it. The songs were cool, and the energy, and people raising their hands, worshiping God. That just wasn't how I was raised, but it was so wonderful. I was standing there worshiping, and I literally felt these arms hugged me. And this sensation came over that Jesus was giving me a hug. And it just blew me away. It just blew me away that with me worshiping him, he came in and hugged me virtually, or however that was, there was that sensation. Every Sunday morning, and I don't know how long we've been doing this, 6 or 8 months, the first 10 minutes or so, first 5 or 10 minutes, we just worship. We just thank God. We just talk to Jesus and make it all about him. Not my needs, not anything that's going on in my life, but who he is. And I love that part. It's helped me so much to develop that relationship. And I wouldn't have had that without the church. And I wanted to be more of a part of that. I didn't know what exactly, but each month, May, June, July, I kept saying, there's something more than me just showing up on Sunday mornings. There has to be something more. Wonder what that is. And I really wanted to serve. And so I thought, how can I get involved? So I showed up one night. He told me about Compassion Night, and it was a Thursday night. It was about 7 years ago, this week or next week. I had never, ever thought that I wanted to be a part of anything that had to do with homelessness. I avoided people that were homeless when I would drive down the street or see them at a corner. I just had this thing, and I don't even know what it was, but it would have been of the least of the things that I wanted to serve the Lord with. And so I showed up one Thursday night, and I showed up the next Thursday night, and I showed up the next Thursday night, and I would hide behind the table where they did the food, where they'd hand food. And that way I didn't have to jump out there. And then all of a sudden, this guy named Nick said, come on, just jump in line here, and I'll talk with some homeless people with you. And so that's how it all got started. I was very reluctant. And I'm gonna tell you, I've traveled the world. I've done so many things that I've been blessed to do, but the most fulfilling part of my life is being involved in that part of outreach. And it hasn't all been easy. I mean, I've had a guy said that he wanted to kill me one night. He said, he looked at me and he said, you don't want to talk to me. And just that week, I had been talking more about wanting to be more closer with the Holy Spirit. It really had been on my mind that week. And I stood there when this guy said, if I had a gun, I would kill you right now. And I felt the Holy Spirit say to me, just stand there and love this guy for what he's saying. So I stood there and talked and listened to him, and I could feel the presence of the Holy Spirit in that little conversation, just he and I. It was like 40 minutes. And we were gonna do our debriefing as we always did on Compassion Night. And this guy looked at me, the guy that was wanted to kill me, and hugged me and started crying and said, please don't go. And I'd never felt the power of God more than I did with that experience. And I can't even explain it. I just felt surrounded by the Holy Spirit in that whole thing. I didn't see that guy after that. You never know what's going to happen, but you trust that everything is going to be good for him. Prayed for him. His name was Chester. Prayed for him all the time. 2.5 years ago, I was taking somebody to get into a program, and we stopped here at the Dream Center so this guy Fred could get a shower before he had to go on an overnight bus trip to go to Tennessee. I took him down to the bus station. I started praying for him in the car in front of the bus station where you can drive up, and I felt a presence coming towards me in my car. And I thought, oh shucks, it's the security guard. He's gonna ask me to move my car. I rolled down that window and I said, listen, I'm just gonna go in and make sure the ticket's there, and get him on a bus, and I hope I'm not in the way. And he looked down at me and he said, I know you. And I looked up and it was Chester. And I got out of the car and he grabbed me and he said, my whole life has been changed. God is so good to me. And he said, I just am such a different person now. And he said, my wife, I've gotten married and she's coming to pick me up in 15 minutes. Don't move your car. Please stay here. I want her to meet you. And so she came on a little scooter. Everything became real about the power of God. and how lives are transformed. And even though I never think about that I'm being a part of it, I don't consciously think I'm there to help somebody, as to change their lives. I'm just there to serve the Lord. All that happens beyond that is up to Him, right? And so it's the thinking about the prodigal son and about how many years I strayed away from God, and then Him just welcoming back like I was the most precious thing in the world. Even though all those bad things that I did, it was like, okay, that's in the past, man. This is our future together. You're my son. And sometimes when I get caught up thinking, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What's going on right now? I always remember to bring it back that I'm a child of God. That's it. I am a child of God. And I thought, wow, God will love me more even when I mess up. Those things I wouldn't have been aware of if I hadn't been a part of this church, because I would have still just been doing my own thing. The Randy, the 27 years ago, was a Randy for himself. It was Randy focused on the worldly pleasures that would benefit Randy. That was it. Now, it's not about that. It's about serving. It's about wanting to do more. It's about a continuous transformation, So that's the difference. It was just, I was living for today, and now I'm living for tomorrow.